much do you really know about Thanksgiving? We'll get into the history of it coming up on My St. Louis Live.
As you prepare for a very full belly this season, have you ever thought, why do we celebrate Thanksgiving? Or when was the first Thanksgiving? If so, today is your lucky day. After the break, our celebrity historian Raffi is going to give us a little history lesson of Thanksgiving.
We have made it to Thanksgiving week and also Black Friday. Coming up, you may think you know the story of the first Thanksgiving. But did you know there's more than one first Thanksgiving? We are so thankful for our friend and celebrity historian, Raffi Andonian. He is here to clear this all up for us. First off, good to see you, sir, and happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. I am thankful to be here.
We are so thankful because every time you come with the energy and the knowledge. So, when was the very first Thanksgiving?
Everyone thinks of Plymouth 1621, right?
Right.
Well, you know, that is a claim to a first Thanksgiving, although I have my kind of doubts about it. But there are certainly other claims to it. So a few years earlier than that, for example, you have in Virginia in 1619 a claim to the first Thanksgiving when they make it across for a treacherous journey, and they're thankful for having made it. And there's a claim for that first Thanksgiving. If you go to Berkeley Plantation in Thanksgiving, they promote it. And another one is even earlier in 1598 in what is today El Paso, which seems like it would be Texas, but back then was actually the province of New Mexico of northern Spain. In 1598, you have Juan de Oñate, one of the conquistadors, coming up north for the first time for the Spanish. And when he's there, making it through the treacherous desert on the day of Ascension, they bow down and give thanks and hold a ceremony. All of these have to do with sharing a harvest. All of these have a similar story. In fact, I would say that Plymouth is not the first time you have indigenous people and Europeans sharing harvest. Think of Pocahontas and John Rolfe, who are married, and of course the story of John Smith and all that stuff. That's happening more than a decade before Plymouth is. So I think what happens is these are all a couple hundred years before the United States exists. Later, when Thanksgiving pops up, so the U.S. holiday, we look back to these periods and kind of draw these connections to them, but there's certainly no consistency in those couple centuries until the United States exists. The first time we really celebrate Thanksgiving as a nation is George Washington in 1789 when he's president, when a new constitution is put in place. He proclaims a day of thanks as president, sets a precedent for presidents to be able to proclaim that later, but not all of them do. Thomas Jefferson, for example, the third president, does not. He says, it's too much religion and government interconnected for me. He does not proclaim it, believe it or not. It's not until Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, that we get a more consistent proclamation of Thanksgiving as Lincoln does and puts it on the fourth Thursday of the month.
So when did this become a huge weekend involving shopping too with Black Friday?
Well, actually, what's funny is establishing the first Thanksgiving and Black Friday very much connect to each other. So let's continue that story.
Okay.
So even after Lincoln established it in the 1860s during the Civil War, it still moved around. Believe it or not, it moved over to the first week of December at some point. And by the time of Franklin Roosevelt, think of the Great Depression trying to stimulate the economy, he moves it up earlier in November, believe it or not, to the third Thursday of November to give a longer shopping season for Christmas. So these stories are interconnected, but you don't have a Black Friday as we think about it until the 1950s, 1960s. It's in Philadelphia in the 1950s. Starts to pop up, and it's not really, I would say, until 1970s and 80s as a big national phenomenon. It's not all that old. There's a couple of myths about Black Friday, like, you know, it's the first time that stores would go in the black from being in the red all year from the Christmas. Not true. There's a more recent one that says it was a big day for actually getting slaves on sale in the days of slavery. Also not based, we don't have any factual evidence for that. So there's a lot of different stories that circulate for it, but to me, it's the fact that you have shopping season that is moving around. There's literally a lobby on FDR in the 1930s and 40s asking him to move Thanksgiving up. But Congress in 1941 establishes Thanksgiving as a fourth Thursday, not to be moved around anymore, because it's constantly being moved around. It is not just a presidential proclamation anymore at that point. And that establishes that fourth Thursday and the Black Friday for being consistently there. So those stories very much interconnect. I would say, so going back to tie this together, first Thanksgiving, I would say, is not until about 80 years ago. Very recent. We think of it as a centuries-old holiday.
There we go.
But that's what I would say.
And that's why we keep bringing you back, because every time, as I mentioned, he brings the energy and the knowledge. And if you want to see more of him and learn more, head to his website, celebrityhistorian.com. We'll also post this segment at firstalertfour.com/mystl live following the show.